Trump just stated that Maduro's days in power in Venezuela are numbered. And this situation is entering a new phase, and perhaps a more dangerous one than many people imagine. In this video, we are going to analyze letters secretly sent by the Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro directly to Vladimir Putin in Russia and to Xi Jinping in China, asking for weapons, ammunition, radars, and logistical support to protect himself from what he interprets as an imminent attack by the United States, with the goal of overthrowing his regime. And before anyone thinks this is an exaggeration or a conspiracy theory, just look at the recent American military movements in the Caribbean over the past few weeks. Ships, planes, troops, and increasing diplomatic pressure. Something is happening, and it's serious. In fact, leave your comment here below. Do you believe that the United States would attack Venezuela? Internal United States documents, which were recently leaked, reveal that Maduro allegedly sent these letters with a sense of urgency. According to sources close to the intelligence service, the Venezuelan regime is convinced that Washington is about to take military action to remove Maduro from power, either through surgical strikes or by directly assisting internal opposition forces. And fearing this, the dictator decided to turn to his most powerful allies. In the letter sent to Vladimir Putin, Maduro requests assistance for renewing Venezuela's air capabilities and defense. Among the requests are the restoration of the Sukhoi Su-30 Mk-2 aircraft, which form the core of the Venezuelan Air Force, the delivery of missiles, especially anti-ship ones, and the installation of new radars. In addition, the dictator requests a medium-term financing plan with the Russian defense conglomerate Rostec to acquire new weapons and technologies. It's an expensive, complex, and politically sensitive request. At the same time, Maduro sent another letter to Xi Jinping's China, seeking to further expand military cooperation, especially in radar systems. For those who don't follow this sector, leaving your airspace blind means giving up your sovereignty. Radars are the eyes of defense. Without them, no country can anticipate surprise attacks coming from the air or the sea. And this request makes the urgency and fear of the Venezuelan regime very clear. Maduro believes that, with the support of Russia and China, he will be able to resist any American attempt at intervention. The relationship between Venezuela and Russia began back in the days of Hugo Chavez, when Caracas distanced itself from the United States and started making huge purchases of Russian weaponry, armored helicopters, anti-aircraft systems, military vehicles, and the aforementioned Sukhoi fighter jets. The result of this was the almost complete Russification of the Venezuelan armed forces. Today, a large part of the country's equipment, vehicles, and aircraft are of Soviet design or Russian manufacture. This makes Venezuela technically, logistically, and politically dependent on Moscow. However, although Russian support seems solid, in recent years it has been called into question. That's because much of the equipment purchased is already obsolete or simply not operational due to lack of maintenance and spare parts. Since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, Russia has been prioritizing its own rearmament and suffering heavy sanctions. This drastically reduces Moscow's ability to invest abroad. And that raises an inevitable question for you to weigh in on. How far will Putin go to defend Maduro? From a long list of promised investments, only one ammunition factory for Kalashnikov rifles was actually built in Venezuela. Just one. This reveals the fragility of this partnership. And there's a decisive economic factor. Venezuela is deeply dependent on oil exports. However, it faces severe challenges due to American sanctions. Russia, also under sanctions, has tried to expand its partnerships with Caracas, especially in oil and gas. But now that's even more difficult. Recently, Trump announced new sanctions against Russian oil companies and their clandestine tankers. The so-called shadow fleet, a system of ships without a flag with false registrations that transport sanctioned oil around the world. At the same time, Europe has tightened its rules, tracking ships by satellite and blocking banking transactions. This has reduced Russia's ability to disguise its exports. And the result? Moscow has less money and less operational flexibility. Not even Iran, another sanctioned regime that helped Maduro in the past, is managing to keep its commitments. But why? Because Iran is caught in a growing conflict with Israel and under constant international surveillance. Its illegal oil exports no longer flow so freely. And without money, sanctions weigh even more heavily. But here comes the critical point. Economic cooperation is not the same as a military alliance. And when it comes to war, who actually deploys soldiers, ammunition, and real military technology in the field? Russia today is overwhelmed, sending drones, ammunition, armored vehicles, and missiles to the front in Ukraine. Its factories are running at a wartime pace, and even so, they can't meet their own demand. And this sets another dangerous precedent. Do you remember the 12-day war involving Israel and Iran? Before that, Iran did exactly what Maduro is doing now. It sent calls for help to the Kremlin. The Russian response? Nothing. No additional S-300 systems, no radars, no effective diplomatic cover. Putin did not respond to the request, even though it was geographically close, even after signing a strategic military agreement. This made it clear, Russia does not have any military resources to spare. If Putin didn't help Iran, which is just a few hours away by plane, how could he help Venezuela on the other side of the world, in the Caribbean, surrounded by the largest navy on the planet? Military logistics is not a fantasy. It's about tons. It's about time. It's about fuel. It's about radar signatures. The logistics channels would be spied on, tracked, and blocked. Yes, from time to time, a Russian cargo plane lands in Caracas. But that flow is far too small to resupply a country that needs to face American attacks. Even more so when these attacks could involve hypersonic missiles, electronic jamming, drones, and a swarm of naval warfare. And there's another point that's rarely mentioned. For Moscow, Venezuela is valuable because of its geographic position, its backyard in front of the United States, and its vast oil reserves. It's a strategic outpost, but all of this loses relevance if Moscow can't defend that point. There's no point in having a strategic port if you can't protect it when the enemy comes knocking. On the Chinese side, the issue is even more delicate. China sees Venezuela as an opportunity for political advancement in Latin America. Yes, Beijing likes to invest in infrastructure, telecommunications, ports, and roads, and then use that to pull ideological influence. But militarily, it is more cautious. Xi Jinping is trying to reduce tensions with the United States because of the trade war. Beijing wants to sell semiconductors, electric cars, batteries, and technology. It doesn't want a direct confrontation right now. Sending radars is fine. Sending troops? Never. If Beijing irritates Washington now, it loses billions in exports. And Xi Jinping wouldn't risk that. All these elements paint a clear picture. Maduro's desperate request reveals an internal perception of collapse. The Venezuelan regime fears that the United States will actually attack, and he knows he can't hold on alone. If the Americans decide to move forward, it's unlikely that Russia will be able to deliver missiles and radars in time. And China doesn't want to risk its trade war. And here comes the most important point of this video. If sanctioned regimes depend on distant dictatorships to survive, they've already lost. The only question now is when. The collapse of Venezuela could come with a surgical strike, such as internal sabotage or a naval blockade. And if the United States acts, no country in the world today is able to stop it. Washington controls 11 heavy aircraft carriers. Russia has only one, which doesn't always sail. Each American aircraft carrier carries more firepower than the entire air force of many countries. So I ask, do you believe that Maduro can stand alone? Do you think Russia would have the courage to face the United States in the Caribbean? Would China risk trillion-dollar sanctions for Maduro? Comment here. And one last thought. We are living in a new era of geopolitics. Empires don't fall because they are weak. They fall because they become isolated. Maduro tried to buy time, but maybe the clock is already ticking toward the end. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel now, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with your friends. Because the world is changing, and changing fast. And here, you'll understand what's really happening. I'm Shimon Oliveira, and I'll see you in the next video. See you next time!